Hi, my name's Jason Delaney and I am a published poet of emotional poetry and poetry all about mental health. But also, I am a bit of a freak on horror films and serial killers, and this is why I'm here today. I have a book about serial killers called Delaney's Exploration into Serial Killers Part 1. You see that there in its glory. You can find that on Amazon. And the reason why I'm here today is to speak about Ed Kemper. Now, Ed Kemper isn't that well known, really, in the serial killer world. As far as media goes, you've got your Ted Bundys, you've got your Jases, you've got your Mansons, everyone's heard of them. Not everybody would have heard of Ed Kemper, but yet he is probably a poster boy for all of them, really. He was a sick puppy, shall we say. He was a towering figure. He was, if you see pictures of him, he's like 6'9". He's a beast of a man. Not someone you want to mess with, let alone he's got serial killer blood in him. Christ. Yeah, massive bloke. He actually killed 8 people in the end. He started with his grandparents. When he was 15, I believe, he shot his grandmother. Didn't like her, so he shot her. Got the gun, shot her. When his granddad came back from the shops, he shot him as well. But his reasoning for shooting his granddad was he didn't want him to be lonely. So was that some compassion there? Some empathy from a serial killer? But he started before that as far as getting his serial killer wings. He did the normal things, like he's got 2 sisters, and he cut the heads off the dolls, messed around with them, arms and that, pulled them off, progressed onto, horribly to say, because I'm a big cat man, cats. He killed the family cat. I believe he's killed 2 cats in the end, but this is his ticking his boxes as far as getting into a serial killer mode. So he did that, and he hated his mum. His mum was a horrible figure, and he had to live with his mum. At one point, he went to live with his dad, but that didn't work out, and so he lived with his mum. His mum was an alcoholic, and she was always horrible to Ed. She just, nothing he did was right. So his self-esteem was 0 all of the time, and he was a bit of a freak anyway, because when he was 15, he was about 6'2". So you can imagine that in a young lad. He's just an outcast. The girls wouldn't look at him. I bet the boys didn't want to go near him. So he probably had no friends. He's killing cats. He's doing his sister's dolls in. His mum's a horrible woman. You know what's coming, don't you? So he killed his granddad and his grandma at 15. So yeah, he was a clever man. He had a big IQ. So his first started killing girls as hitchhikers. Going back then, I think it was the late 70s, early 80s. Hitchhiking was a big thing in America. You didn't even worry about it. The young girls would do it just to get from one town to another. But if you're a serial killer, that is easy pickings. So that's what he did. He'd hitchhike these young girls, kill them with a hammer or with a gun, and then he would rape them. A bit of a necrophile, this lad. Dismember them, and then mess around with their body parts as well. Yeah, he was a bit of a freak. Well, he did this for a while, and he'd keep him in his boot of his car, and he'd even take him in to his lodgings, put him into his cupboard or closet, if we're talking American, and mess about with them later on. He had no waste, this fella. So he did this for quite a while, and he lived with his mum on and off, and at one point he snapped at home. You know what's coming, don't you? When his mum was asleep, he smashed her over the head with a hammer and then slit her throat with a penknife and then took her head off. He'd had enough of it, snapped, done his mum in, had her head off, and had a bit of fun with his mum. All kinds of wrong, this next statement. So if you're squeamish, sit down, get yourself a glass of water. Yeah, he messed around with his mum, took the head off, did unspeakable things with the head, if you know what I'm saying. He was one of them. And then he buried his mum in a garden. But in his garden, in his mum's garden, there was already heads from other people that he'd killed. He buried the heads facing his mum's bedroom window because apparently his mum liked people to look up to her. This is what kind of freak we're talking about. So now he's done his mum. Yeah, he's playing with her mum's head, and he's got the body. He's dismembered it. He's doing that, this, that, and the other. While he was doing all of this, he used to like go into the bars, and he befriended policemen. He was a clever bloke. So he would like to get into the police bars because all the policemen back there, they'd drink in certain bars, and he'd go in there with them. And of course, he befriended them. He was a big hulking figure, so they probably, there's a talking point there straight away. And he got some friends that were coppers. And but of course, he did this just to see what they knew about the people going missing, and see if there's anything that he should worry about, or this, that, and the other. But nothing else was happening. So again, when he killed his mum, he had this concern about his mum's best friend. She had a best friend, like to come over and have tea with the mum. He was concerned about this because his mum just wouldn't disappear, and this woman would know something's going on. Invites her around for tea, doesn't he? Invites her around, she comes around, so he kills her because he didn't want her raising any alarm bells about her mum. Puts her in the cupboard, and then goes kind of on the run, really. He leaves the place. I think he killed 8 people in the end. A lot of these were the hitchhikers, a schoolgirl, his mum, the friend. But the police were none the wiser. They weren't too sharp back then, late 70s, early 80s, whatever it was in America. Eating donuts, drinking Bud Light, probably. But that aside, he rings the police from a call box, rings them up, says, this is what's happened. I've killed lots of people. And, there's one at home now. If you go and have a look in the cupboard, my mum's mate's in there, chopped up. So then he's just waiting for them to come and get him. Well, they don't believe him, and nothing happens. They just probably thought it was a prank, as you probably would. Somebody rings up and says, I've done my mum, I've had her head off. I'm a bit of a freak. I've done her mate as well. I do unspeakable things with her head, and it's probably on a mantelpiece as we speak. Didn't believe him. So he had to call him again. This time they checked it out and they did arrest him. So yeah, there's pictures of this as well where he's being arrested and taken into the police station, and the coppers are like this and he's up here. You look at him and you think, Christ, if that's a serial killer, I'm in trouble. I'd rather fight Manson than him. Huge bloke. But he wanted to get arrested. It's once again, he's a poster boy for serial killers. They like, well, a lot of them do. They like the notoriety of it. Manson did, loved the fame. Bundy not so much, but Kemper did. He loved being in the spotlight, loved the attention, probably because he never had any mates. His mum was a bitch. I don't know about his sisters, to be honest, but I wouldn't imagine they'd too nice to him because of the mother. So he was the centre of attention, and he kind of thought he was a police buddy anyway, because he used to go out drinking with him. Of course he wasn't, but in his mind he was. He wanted to be a police officer. Actually, I didn't mention that, but they wouldn't let him do it because he was too tall. Now, what reasoning is that? I don't know, but that was American rules. He was too tall to be a policeman. But he liked all the police, the investigations and stuff like that. And like I said, he was a clever kid. Had an IQ of about 145. So now he's in custody, and they're doing, all the psychiatrists and that are doing stuff on him. They thought he was schizophrenic initially. They did all of the tests, and the psychiatrists come in, the psychologists come in and doing all the tests. And he was fascinated by all of this because he was, like I say, he was a clever man, and he loved all of the attention, but he also loved all the questions they were asking him, and trying to figure out, what's going on in his head. And he knew, obviously, that he was wrong doing this stuff. It wasn't like he was just a depraved person that wanted to kill. He knew it was wrong before he did it because of his intelligence, but he just couldn't help it. He just had these urges and he had to go and do it. Sick person. But yeah, so he gets all of these people doing the tests on him. He's tried, and he is convicted of 8 counts of murder, and of course he's given life, never going to get out, no parole, nothing like that. And they continue to do tests on him in prison, and the FBI do quite an analysis on him, and he was one that they first did all their questioning with. And you know, the FBI people have profiles, they have profilers that sort of assess a murder scene and kind of figure out, or try and figure out, what the murderer looks like, you know, what ages, race, all the rest of it, the profiling. He helped compile that. Ted Bundy did as well at the same sort of time. He was another serial killer. So they basically, the FBI wanted to get into the killer's head, find out why they're thinking this, and use that to try and stop future ones. And it's an effective tool. And he really enjoyed doing that. So yeah, there's a lot of, if you think of, there's a few horror films that he's kind of loosely based upon. Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs, he was loosely based on him. There's I think there's a bit of a B movie called The Co-Ed Killer. That was one of his nicknames was The Co-Ed Killer, because some of the people he had were students. But yeah, he isn't that famous in that respect as far as media goes, where you've got lots of films and documentaries about Manson, lots of films about Bundy and Gacy and Ed Gein, but not that many about Kemper. But I think it's fascinating. And if you had a look at a picture of him, you wouldn't know. But also in Netflix, there's a good series called Mindhunter. Don't know if you've seen that or not. If not, check it out. Because there's a sort of there's a few programs on that. Like he's in it helping the FBI to try and find a killer. And this is kind of based on true fact. But the person, the actor that plays him, looks amazingly like him. I have a picture in my book. So you can see that the fat one is the actor, the thin one is the real chap. Obviously there's a weight difference there, but they show him in different stages of being in prison, because of course he's in prison a long time, and he's had lots of parole meetings, but of course he's never getting out, because he knows that. And there's no one ever going to let him out. He's a bit of a sick puppy. And I believe his next parole date is this year. But he knows he's not going to get out. He's going to die in prison. And so he should. But he is fascinating if you're a sick puppy like me and like Kirsty, who I'm going to send this video to. So that's me. I am a poet, but I do like other things as well, such as this. And if you are cut from the same cloth as me and Kirsty, my wife's the same. She's a sick person. I'm a sister. Check it out. Check out my book, and definitely check out Kirsty's website and YouTube channel. And it's Sensory Star Wars. Been a pleasure to talk to you. I might see you again in an interview with Kirsty, and then perhaps if I'm plugging this book, part 2. But if you like freaky killers, necrophiles, things like that, not that I'm into that, but I'm fascinated by them all, check out Edmund Kemper. And don't get into no car hitchhiking. Listen up.